Hey guys, I've been thinking a lot about this issue of, how do we build an audience? And part of that is how do you start the conversation? And, you know, the the kind of examples we get of people in the realm of political ideas are that they're not genuinely engaged in persuasion. This is a point that I've made in a lot of contexts, that what they're really trying to do is raise their status within their tribe and lower the status of the other tribe. And that's sort of how they gain an audience and become popular. But if you're in the persuasion game, you're trying to do something very different. And the and I think it can be even damaging to think about it as persuasion. So on one level, yes, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to change minds. But if that's leading you to view other people as, in effect, chess pieces that you're going to win over for your cause, then they'll experience that as manipulative, and you're not going to actually achieve what you want to achieve. And so the right mindset to cultivate, I think, is how do I become a helper? How can I actually help people solve problems and be a problem solver? And so the uh, the thing you should be thinking about then is, first and foremost, what are the problems that people want solved? And I really want to stress this part, that it's the problems people want solved. If it's problems that you think they have but they don't see themselves as having and aren't eagerly trying to solve, you're never going to build an audience, because it's convincing somebody they have a problem. Like, people know they have problems and they don't want more that they don't see. So you want to actually start by finding what are the problems they're already trying to solve. I've seen this, for example, in the work that I do. There will be people who will invest a lot of money into videos and not get a lot of hits on them. They'll get 200 hits. And they know they have a problem. They can't escape it. They know we spent $10,000 and this isn't actually getting any traction. But that's very different from me coming along and saying, you guys don't have the right messaging. You don't have the right arguments for your side. It's a lot easier to lie to yourself about that. In fact, this is one of the great difficulties in dealing with political issues, is it's often hard to figure out what are the problems that people see themselves as having. So let me give you a contrasting example. If I was doing work mainly in the area of ethics, then I would be studying the work of the self-help genre. And in particular, not their solutions and not their approaches, but their marketing. What problems are they trying to address? Because this is an industry that sells a lot of stuff, including high-price coaching, high-price seminars, and they're very good at tapping into the problems and aspirations of their audience. And so I would be basically studying those and then thinking, how does my ethical system and how does my ethical approach, how does that actually solve these problems in a superior way? In politics, it's harder to kind of get at what those problems are. And one reason why is that you pay a much lower price, or at least you seem to pay a much lower price, certainly in the short term, for having wrong political views or bad political arguments. And that's because you have very little control over the outcome, right? So you can go a long time in thinking, yeah, I have everything right, but nobody's listening because, they're irrational, they're stupid, they're immoral. And so you have to really be, I think, much more attuned to where people are. And that's a lot of what I'm exploring in Liberty Unlocked, my podcast, is what are the problems that ultimately lead people to question their worldview and be open to a new one? And there are elements that I think are pretty common. So one is confusion, thinking, yeah, I can't explain this issue. I don't know how to make sense of this. My ideas don't seem to actually fit together. They seem to clash in this way. So there's confusion. There's also thinking, well, I think my ideas are okay, but my ability to defend them, I feel in the defensive. I feel overwhelmed by attacks, and I want to feel more capable and empowered when I go into the debate or when I go into a meeting. I need to be more effective at, influencing legislation. I need to be more impactful in terms of defending my industry and making sure that my industry is not hit with painful regulations or controls or laws. So there are areas where people are where they do have problems, where they're searching for a solution or where they'd be open to a new solution. And if you come in from the mindset that I am here to help, then that's where you're going to actually be able to get a leg up and build an audience. but then you actually have to be able to deliver the goods. And there's two things here that I would stress. So one is that you need to have credibility. That is, if you're telling people, hey, you feel in the defensive and don't know how to champion your ideas, and I've got the solution, but you don't seem particularly compelling, you don't seem to be particularly persuasive, just having theoretically why you're more persuasive, that's not going to mean anything to anyone. And this is something that I had a lot of experience with, because that was in effect the argument of my first book, Free Market Revolution. I think it was a true argument we were making, that you needed a defense of selfishness in order to be able to convince people of capitalism. But I hadn't established a track record of persuading a lot of people of capitalism. Now, that's a little unfair to us, because part of what we were cashing in on is why was Ayn Rand the greatest, the most successful person at persuading people of capitalism, arguably in modern times. But nevertheless, it's still true that credibility is something really important that you have to establish if you want people to take your solutions seriously. Then the other thing is more on the content side, which is, my belief is that the main value that you can provide to people, the main way that they'll experience that what you're offering really is a solution, is clarity. That is, if you can present your ideas and the case for your ideas in a way that is unmatched in its clarity, that is a real value to people. People experience that as really pleasurable, really valuable, really empowering, and particularly then if you can explain to them how they can achieve clarity in their thought and communication. And so I think if you tap into people's problems, if your goal is genuinely to help solve them, if you establish credibility and you provide clarity, you are in the best position to gain an audience of people for your ideas, including people who didn't come in already agreeing with you. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Any questions you have, you can send them to Don at donswriting.com, and I will talk to you tomorrow.